Today we're going to learn how to create professional PDF reports using Matplotlib. These can be financial reports, medical reports, or just dataset exploration reports. Whatever you want to put in there, you can basically turn Matplotlib plots and figures into documents, into professional documents, and today we're going to learn how to do that. If you like this video, let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing, and now let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to jump right into it. Open your favorite code editor and navigate to a directory of your choice. In my case, I'm going to be working in the tutorial directory. And the only thing you need for this video to follow along is Matplotlib on your system. So the easiest way to do that is to use pip to install it. So pip or pip3, depending on your operating system, install, and then Matplotlib. This adds it to your global Python installation. If you want a virtual environment, you can do that with venv, with virtual env, or in my case, I'm going to go with UV. If you don't know what UV is, you don't have to concern yourself with that. So just use the pip install method. I'm just going to say UV init and UV at Matplotlib basically accomplishes the same thing, just locally in this directory. So it's an isolated environment, but pip install is fine. Now, what I'm also going to install here is pandas, just because we need some data source. So you can use a CSV file, a database connection, hard-coded data in your Python script. I'm going to just craft an artificial pandas data frame with some sample data that we can visualize. And because of that, I need to say UV at pandas. And in your case, if you want to do the same thing, you can also say pip install pandas too. So pip install pandas will install it globally to your Python installation. So I'm also going to say now source venv bin activate, just so I have the auto completion. If you're not using a virtual environment, you can also skip that. And now let's get into the code. We're going to open up a file called main.py, or you can call it whatever you want. We're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to remove this default code here. And what we want to do now is we want to start with a very basic hello world-like example of exporting something to a PDF document using Matplotlib. So we're going to start with the imports. We're going to say import pandas as PD, so we can have some sample data. We're going to say import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. This is the ordinary Matplotlib import. And now this is probably new. From matplotlib.backends, we're going to import the PDF backend. So backend underscore PDF. We're going to import PDF pages, which is a class. And if you know how to work with Matplotlib, I can tell you this right away. If you know how to work with figures, how to design stuff in Matplotlib, and I have a crash course on that if you don't know how to do that. But basically, all you have to do is you have to wrap PDF pages around it, and that's it. You can just export your PDF figure or your Matplotlib figures into a PDF document. That's all you need to do. So the tutorial here is more like an example of how to do that. But the magic, if you know Matplotlib already, is just wrapping PDF pages around it. That's it. So let us now start with generating the sample data. I'm just going to say df is equal to pandas data frame. We're going to have a dictionary here, so we're going to hard code the data. And it's going to be very simple. We have months. Months is going to be a list of month names, so January and so on, like this, January to December. Then we're going to say sales. Sales is going to be just the sales numbers or sales prices, whatever. I'm going to fill that up in a second here. We're going to have costs. And then we're going to have profit as well, but we're not going to hard code it. We're going to say later on that the profit is obviously just the sales minus the costs. And with pandas data frames, we can easily do that. Sales minus cost. That is just the setup now. So this is nothing related to PDF export. I'm just setting up some data. There you go. Like this, we have some numbers here for every month. Let's maybe call this cost. I think that's grammatically more correct. And this now is our sample data. So we can visualize this data in ordinary Matplotlib plots. So how do we actually take this now and visualize something that we can then export into a PDF document? Very simple. We can add a with statement with PDF pages, and everything that happens then in there just needs to be saved to a PDF document, and that's it. So we're going to say with PDF pages and then the name. Let's call this report.pdf as PDF. And in here, we can just do the ordinary Matplotlib stuff. So I can define a figure. I can say plt.figure. I can provide a figure size. Now you can use some standardized format like A4. Let me just look up the values again. 8.27 and 11.69. That's the standardized A4 page. Probably for Americans, not that interesting. But that would be now the figure size. That's the size of the page. A figure is a page, basically. Then we can say figure.supertitle, so subtitle, but with a P, not with a B. So sub as supertitle. We're going to call this sales report. Let's call this annual sales report. Sounds more professional. Font size for this is going to be 16, and the weight is going to be bold. Now then we can basically do a bunch of stuff in here. And at the end, what we do is we say PDF save figure. So save fig like this. And we pass the figure and we close the PLT. So PLT figure or PLT close the figure. That is the whole setup. So if we run this now, UV run main py, or in your case, you would do Python or Python 3 main py. We can see this generates a report. I can open this report and we can see an empty figure. It just has annual sales report. That is the most basic way to export something. Everything else we do, everything we add to the figure is basically just Matplotlib stuff. So it's not really anything fancy. If you know how to work with Matplotlib, you can end the video right here. You know already what to do. That is the setup. You have with PDF pages, you have a figure, you design the figure or the size of the figure, you save it, you close it. That's it. However, of course, there is some more interesting stuff that we can do. For example, we can define a grid. I can say GS is equal to figure.add_grid_spec. And then I can say I want to have 3 rows and 2 columns with the height ratios being equal to 1 to 2. What does that basically mean? It means that the first row has a size of 1 compared to the second and third row that have proportionally a size of 2 and 2. So that's the idea, that these 2 rows are larger than this one, twice as large as this one. Then we can also say H space is equal to 0.4 and W space is equal to 0.3. There you go. So that is now our grid spec, and this means that we have different rows and columns that we can fill now with axes, with plots basically. So now let's say in the first smaller row here, I want to add a table. So I'm going to define a table with the data. I just want to have the data as a table. And below it, I want to have a 2x2 grid with some plots. So first of all, we're going to start by defining an axis for the table. Let me actually go full screen here. And that is going to be figure.add_subplot. And here we're now going to say that this is our grid spec and 0 and everything. So this basically means it fills the entire first row. That is the axis for our table. We're going to say axis table axis is going to be off because that's not a plot. So we only want to have the table there. And then we can just create the table by saying table is equal to axis table dot table. Then the cell text of the individual cells is going to be the df values, and the column names or column labels is what they're called here. Is going to be df columns, and the location of this should be center. Then we can also say table set font size, and let's go and set this to 8. So let's see if this already works. I can do UV run main py again. We can take a look at this, and there you go. We have a table now in our plot. So, or in our PDF. Now, of course, what you can do is you can go title case here for the columns. You can also define a list with the column names. You can also add some styling like a background color here and bold text and whatnot. I don't want to spend too much time doing Matplotlib stuff here because the focus is on generating the reports. So from now on, I'm also going to do more copy pasting just to show you how you do stuff in general. If you want to learn Matplotlib designing in general, I have a crash course on that. You can watch this one. But here we're not going to spend too much time talking about the individual Matplotlib stuff that we can do. So yeah, for the 2x2 grid with the plots, I'm going to do one manually here. We're going to type one out ourselves, and then we're going to just copy paste the remaining 3 because the concept is the same. So we're going to define an axis here. Axis 1 is equal to figure at subplot. And of course, what do we need to do here? We have our grid spec. Now we're in row 1. And so row 1 is actually row 2. And we want to have the first column, which is column 0. And then we're going to say axis1.plot. And what do we want to plot? On the x-axis, we want to have the months, and on the y-axis, the sales. So I'm going to say df months, df sales. Then we can do stuff like marker is equal to something. Then we can say color is equal to red, for example. Then to be able to see the months properly, we're going to say axis1 tick_params because we want to rotate the x labels, or the x ticks actually. So I'm going to say axis is the one with the months, so that's the x-axis, and the rotation here is going to be 45 degrees. So they're displayed in a better way. And then finally, axis1 set title, and we're going to just say sales And then of course for the other 3 plots, it's basically the same idea. We do the same thing, but we adjust the grid spec location. So we have 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 1. And because of that, because it's basically the same, I'm just going to copy paste this here now. And we have axis 2, 3, 4. We have here months versus cost, month versus profit, sales versus cost. Same idea as here, just we visualize the different columns. So I'm going to write this now, and we're going to run main py and see if this generates a nice report. What we get here is a PDF document, A4 format with 4 different plots and a table at the top. Now you might be saying though that of course when you generate a report you usually want to have more than 1 page. How do we add multiple pages to the same document? That is also super simple. Let's go back into main py. Let's go full screen again. The only thing you have to do is you have to repeat the whole process. So we can copy this at the top, just create a new figure. We can paste it down below this save figure and plt close statement. We can copy these 2 here as well. And that's basically it. We can now say here, we can just change this to be something else. Additional analysis, for example. And this is now a new page. This will be created as a second page in the same document. If I go uv run main py, and if I take a look at the report now, you can see we still have the same thing as before. And now we have a separate page, additional analysis. So that is as easy as it gets. And now you can repeat the same process. You can add more stuff here, and that's basically the idea. Now to keep it simple and save time, let me just copy paste some snippet here so we have some content. The same idea as before, nothing new here. We just have add grid spec, this time 3 rows in 1 column, same height ratios. Here we just add some text. Again, this is just Matplotlib. Here we have a plot for cumulative profit. And here we have sales versus cost. That is basically it. This is everything we do. Let me just fix the typo here. We have months, not month. And now I can just run main py, and this will fill up this second page with stuff. So this is what it then looks like. We have more plots on the second page. And you can keep going like this. You just have to type Matplotlib code and it generates PDF pages. If I may for a second, I would like to plug myself in as the sponsor of my own video. If you go to my website neural9.com, you will find a tab services and a tab tutoring. Here you can hire me for all sorts of stuff like data science, machine learning, web development. If you need help with something in a project, here you can book me for one-on-one tutoring. If you want me to teach you personally something that you don't understand, if you like my teaching style, on both pages at the bottom, you can contact me via mail and also via LinkedIn. Just wanted to let you know about this. Now, finally, just as a motivation, I want to show you what's possible. Here I have a script which is completely AI generated. So this is not code that I've written myself. It's also quite comprehensive, so I'm not going to teach or I'm not going to analyze exactly what's happening here. But essentially, all we're using here is Matplotlib, the backend with PDF pages, and then some design stuff in Matplotlib. This is what the code looks like. Again, we're not going to explore it too much, but it's the same idea. We have the same idea of wrapping PDF pages in the beginning, doing the same stuff with figure, save figure, close. That's everything we're doing here, and basic Matplotlib stuff. And with this, we can build stuff like that. So I can run fancy py, and this will produce a fancy report. So I can open this fancy report, and this looks like this. So we have an executive summary, we have KPIs, we have nice looking plots, we have revenue breakdown, we have analytics, different chart types, we have a heat map or whatever this plot type is called. We have a plot like this. So this looks very professional. Again, we're not teaching this here. I'm not going to show you how to do that because mostly, you saw the code, it's mostly just Matplotlib design stuff. The idea is the same. Figure, save figure, figure, save figure. That's all you need to do to create professional reports using Matplotlib. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, in case you're interested, on my website, you will find a services tab and a tutoring tab. There you can contact me if you need help with a project, if you need a freelancer, consultant. You can contact me at the bottom of these pages using LinkedIn or email. Besides that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.